I'm going to be filling time where Hollywood comes up here for the next panel. We've got some OGs, some crypto art OGs, including Simpson and Robness. They've been creating art on the blockchain for the last couple of years. I'm just going to hand over to you now and get out of the way. Thank you very much.
That was a very
Sorry.
quick handover.
I'm sorry.
And the flight case steps totally freaking through me. It's just as well we're all friends, like literally. That was not going to be glamorous.
More mics. Well, maybe if you want
yes,
mine,
we
you
need
can
a couple more mics, if that's okay. Thank you. Amazing, amazing. So I am... Oh, we need one more. No, we have another one over here. Do you mind? That one's for Anika. Thank you. Amazing. So I am so freaking excited just to have this conversation. It's been an amazing journey, like joining Web3, being in the NFT space. My name's Hollywood. I'm head of artist relationships at Rarible. My background's in creative industries for the last 20 years, so I've worked with a ton of amazing artists and contemporary creators. But this space has obviously seen like a whole new different kind of creativity emerging. I've been very fortunate to have awesome friendships with all these guys. So I'm just very excited to have this chat with you. Today we're going to be looking at the present and future of art and technology. What have NFTs really changed? So we're going to do a little bit of an intro first, if that's okay. Sure. Yeah, is that cool? I'm definitely not going to introduce all of you.
Yeah. I go under Robness. I've been in the space since 2016, which is probably, the dark ages now. Started off with making rare pepes, which is the core of crypto art. I always love to put that out because there are other people involved and they're like, it started there. Then went off into super rare around 2019, known origin. Then ran off to Rarible, saw the beginnings of Rarible, and that's how we met. And just kept going and just kind of experimenting with how to make art on the blockchain. What does that even mean? Crypto art. And so just keep running with it. And I've made some funny pieces along the way. I'm known for a trash can. I'm known for burning a CryptoPunk and other things. But that's a quick summation. So thank you.
We will jump into that for sure. Miss Al.
Hi there. My name is Ms. A.L. Simpson. And I've been a crypto artist since 2019. I've been on Known Origin, Super Rare, Rarible, OpenSea, and I've been very prolific in the production of crypto art. I think I've sold the most artworks on Super Rare to date. I ignored them when they said that you shouldn't mint as much. I've been in the scene quite a long time for crypto art, and I think it's really exciting to see all the people here today and just really talk about what it means to be a crypto artist and what the future holds, because I think it's really, really exciting what blockchain technology can do for art and so much more. So, really pleased to be here today.
Hello, everyone. My name's Brendandawes. I'm from the north of England, and I got into crypto art in 2020, but I've been making digital art since I could learn to code in 1985 or 2. The first ever public installation I did was in 1983 when I walked into Dixon's. Do you remember Dixon's? Really shit electronic shop. And I would go in and they'd have these computers that I'd learned how to program, I was learning how to code, and I just put in Dixon's is shit, and it just scrolled up the screen in the store, and then walked out, and I thought, this is quite powerful, this stuff, isn't it? Anyway, I got into crypto art in 2020, did the Nifty Gateways, Super Rare, first thing I did was Known Origin, they were amazing, and it kind of changed my life, for sure.
Okay, this works. Hi, my name is Anika Meier. I come from the north of Germany. I'm very honored to be on stage with all of you. We know each other from Twitter, I guess. So, my background is in digital art. I'm a writer and curator. So I've written a column for many years for Germany's biggest art magazine, Monopol, and through that I got into curating. I curated museum shows, and then through the artist Jonas Lund, I guess all of you know the Jonas Lund token, that was in 2018. I got my first NFT, and then I started working with König Gallery in Germany, and together with Johann König, I curated exhibitions like The Artist is Online, Manuel Rosner's first solo show, but when we started, there was no hype around NFTs, so it was during the pandemic. We wanted to create exhibitions online. We were the first gallery in Decentraland. And yeah, we started the web.game in the gallery. You might know the metaverse and what else. Yeah, then I left the gallery because I always been freelance. And then when everything happened, I suddenly said yes to a position. And I was like, wait, but there's so many more things you can do than just work at one place. And so now I do with Circa together NFTs with Marina Abramovic on Tezos. And I curate Kevin de Bosch's first solo show in Austria in Linz. And I take care of the program of Art NFT Linz, so hope to see you in Linz for Ars Electronica and Art NFTs. Sorry for the short promo break.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it just goes to show, like, you know, in terms of like the breadth of knowledge and everything from this panel is incredible. So I wanted to say thank you so much to Nicole at Vertical Crypto Art for brilliant curation of the panels over the next 3 days, but also of this amazing event. I mean, it was already going to be a moment in NFT history in my mind before anyone even arrived. And then you all turned up, which like literally, I want to talk about that actually toward the end, like all of our kind of like role in terms of engaging in the process that we're building. But before we kind of like look forward to the future, I really want to like hop back. Because my first thing I really wanted to do when I joined Rarible was look at the history of the space. I thought it was super important. So like I came to crypto and blockchain through NFTs. And in the same way, I really wanted to understand like the artists that were the early minters. So I wanted to start with a bit of an origin story, a brief history of crypto art, digital art, and like how that definition has been changing through like the way that as technology progresses, like the term crypto art, digital art, you know, how we're sort of framing that now. So yeah, who wants to pick that up?
NFT artist, I don't really agree with that term. It's so weird. It's like compact disc musician. It's just a weird term. So I kind of weird. I delineate the crypto art thing as just like, this is like not like the fine art of the blockchain, but it's just like that's its own little niche, and like the Bored Ape and the crypto thing or the crypto punk thing is like the collectible side. But there's like this weird like combination of the two. Like they're trying to blend them, and then different industries are popping out of this thing, you know? Because like an NFT can be anything. So like when people are selling vehicles and like they're tagged with an NFT, it's like it's not crypto art. Do you know what I mean? So like all this stuff's gonna be branching out, but I think right now it's like these little bubbles that are forming, and then we're starting to realize that like, okay, this is one industry, this is another industry. So yeah, it's my little thing about the NFT art thing.
But obviously, Miss Al, you were, you know, a fine artist before, you know, using the tool of the NFT to create your work. You were a digital artist before?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'd done a few things. I was a collage artist, selling online, and you know, like a lot of artists, really, you know, finding it quite a hard slog using Web 2 e-commerce. And then, so as soon as I found out about the blockchain, you know, I just dived right in. Because like a lot of artists struggling financially, and, you know, I think it's important to say, you know, a lot of crypto art, the movement has come from artists struggling and being literally quite hungry. So we all jumped in. There was a lot of us at the time, Rob and Brendan and everything, we all jumped in, and as I say, you know, I just started tokenizing like crazy. I think my first sale was $41. I remember jumping up and down in the living room telling the kids I've sold something on the blockchain, can't believe it. But yeah, so we were very kind of new and green, but I realized even with that first sale, wow, the potential of this is huge. So I just ignored all the, you know, there was no rule, so I just ignored all the kind of advice at the time, as I said, was don't mint too much, and, because I didn't have the choice. I had every single sale was putting food on the table, like, for a lot of artists. So that germ of crypto art movement came from a group of us that were hungry, literally, and then we grew it and grew it and grew it into what it is today with all its different branches. But I think with the community and the energy of crypto art is still there, and it's growing all the time. It's here today, and I think it matches the energy of the blockchain, which is something completely new and radical, and goodness knows where that's going to lead us. But I think, it's all about energy, and it's great to see you all here today.
And then Brendan, in terms of like your sort of journey in the space, and when would you consider like that you created your very first piece of digital art?
Oh God, my very first piece of digital art, I suppose the one that was maybe taken seriously and kind of changed things for me. There's this software called processing, which many people will know, and is an amazing, I think, one of the most important pieces of software within digital design and digital art. It's been going for many years now. So I got into that. I was always interested in, like I said, computers and programming, taught myself to code, and so I was always making these weird experiments, and this processing thing came along. And I always liked it because it's literally a blank canvas, and it just kind of stares at you and goes, what the fuck are you looking at? It's like you have to type into it. There's no GUI or anything, So you have to learn how to code. And I did this thing where I was taking in DVD footage at the time and thinking, how could I display frames of a movie differently? And I was doing things that people had done before, like slit scan techniques and all this kind of stuff. And then so I was doing all these iterations, and I did this one where it was a frame of a movie every second, and each row represented 60 seconds, and I did it for the whole movie. And I put it out there, this was in 2004, and I put it on the internet, this amazing thing called the World Wide Web, and people started to notice it, and occasionally people would write about it, and then 3 years later, I got an email from the Museum of Modern Art in New York. I didn't know anyone there. They'd seen this work on this amazing thing called the internet, and they were doing this exhibition in 2008 called Design and the Elastic Mind, and they saw my work and said, we'd love to show your work at MoMA. And I remember it was a Saturday afternoon when I got this email. It was raining, as it always is, bloody here all the time. And there was no one I could... My wife was at work. I couldn't tell her, I wanted to and I remember looking at this email going, what, is this a joke? And I remember looking at the email for a good 10 minutes, and I had to text my wife to say, I just had an email off MoMA. So, and they were going to produce it like an A2, and in the end they produced it 30 feet high on this wall, and we went out to New York for the opening party, and it was 3,000 people there. It was insane. And that kind of changed everything for me. I was still, I had a design agency at the time, but then I thought, maybe I could just concentrate on the art side. So I think that was probably the moment. It's that kind of validation where someone else outside your sphere goes, you're all right. This is kind of important or something, because I don't know about, but I always look at my work and, God, this is shit. And, I hate myself. And, it's what you do, isn't it? It's what we do. I think when someone validates it, sorry, Rob.
Yeah, well, my validation was my artwork was stolen.
Yeah.
I was making canvas prints like in my studio with the music equipment and stuff, and all of a sudden my artwork was gone. I was like, well, if someone wanted to steal it, it must be worth something. So that was my value. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. But,
absolutely, it's brilliant. Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah.
Anika, did you have a similar moment where, for instance, you remember a time where your practice changed significantly by people you were surrounded by, or different art movements that you were becoming more aware of? What was your kind of early journey into the space?
I think there was no turning point. I mean, for me, I always wanted to be a journalist, right? And so as students, we started a blog at the university, and we were the first students having a blog. And I always wanted, to just write for newspapers and stuff. I don't want to do that anymore today. I still do it, but it's amazing. But the best thing that could happen to me was when Monopol asked me if I want to write for them. That was in 2014, and with that email, it's probably for you being in MoMA, then I had achieved everything, right? And after that, everything that happened, I mean, that's close to 10 years ago now. Oh, crazy. You know, and after that, everything was just a plus. So with everything that happens being with you here now, it's beautiful. But you know, the best thing had happened when I got in, like for you with the MoMA, right? So everything else is just beautiful. But I because the panelists, what have NFTs really changed? I have a really funny story. I think it's funny. So I'm a writer, and we do the NFTs with Marina Abramovic, and I just wrote to a big German newspaper yesterday whether they would like to interview her. And then there was like, oh, it's great to hear from you. You know, do you want to write an article for us why NFTs are dead? And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, wait, no. I can write an article for you, but you know, and they wrote in the email, well, from the outside it looks like NFTs are dead. And I was like, yeah, but from the inside it doesn't look like that because, you know, I'm right now in London. I was already here yesterday checking, you know, how things are. And I was like, I'm in London and people are flying in all over the world and so many of you are here. So to me, it doesn't look like NFTs are dead. So, but what NFTs have changed, that people actually speak about digital art, at least they are now aware of digital art, but before it was like sort of a niche topic, right? And even if there's confusion what NFTs are as a digital art and people think it's some sort of new medium, it doesn't matter because suddenly like everyone and even the newspaper says, well, NFTs are dead. No matter if they think that or not, at least that NFTs have changed. Everyone speaks about it, right? So that's like the big turning point for all of us, I guess.
I think that's one of the things I thought was great about like NFT and NYC last week or a couple of weeks ago. You know, the conversations that we were having with artists there and you know, everyone's talking about building and everything, but people are also thinking about like kind of maybe acquiring new skills or kind of like going back and like reviewing. And I know that we've talked a bit about trash art. We have to kind of like, you know, go there a little bit, Robness. If you can like give us a little bit of insight and like, and actually where that like culture is, the counterculture of trash art right now.
Yeah. So when I was making a bunch of work like Miss Al, like on Super Rare back in the day, we were just like super stoked on this thing. We were selling pieces for $12. I think I sold, the cheapest one I sold was like $1, just because I wanted to get on the scoreboard or something like that, right? And but you know, I was making a bunch of work and I was having some contention about like a certain app I was using called Photomosh. It's like a glitch app, but I've used that app for years, you know. So if I do any work on Photoshop or doesn't matter what it was, I would use it like a filter, almost like a guitar pedal, you know. So when people found out that I was using that, all of a sudden they liked the artwork and then they didn't. And I'm like, okay, so it's kind of weird. It's like now you found the process, but now you don't like the work, which I thought was bullshit. Because like I come from the music side too. I like punk rock, and I like how you can write a song with 3 chords. You know, like you could write a song in 5 minutes if you're really good. So so I kind of like, my reactionary thing was like, okay, so they're calling this artwork trash. Let's just give them like the literal, you know, right in your face version of it. And I made a couple of trash pieces that were like obscured. They didn't get the joke, and then I put the 64-gallon toter like right smack dab, and then I got removed, and then the piece was removed. And then Cointelegraph wrote an article about, you know, censorship and this and that, like we're in the blockchain, like freedom of expression, like what is that? So that whole 9 yards was going on. And then other artists like heeded the call and they started making trash can remixes. And I just started seeing toters everywhere on, you know, Twitter, and it just kept multiplying. And then it just kind of like turned into a meme. So like that was, you know, that's a lot of the stuff that's we kind of hashed out in the beginning. So a lot of us were learning. The artists were learning, the platforms were learning. It was kind of like this whole learning process, like big kumbaya kind of thing. But after that, it just kept multiplying and multiplying. And there's some stuff not now going on with OpenSea. That's a whole other story. But right now, it's like there's like tons of people making trash art. If you like go to the trash art Twitter hashtag, like there's people making it right now, which is crazy. So I'm like literally watching this thing kind of on the sidelines and just turn into some meme and it just keeps going. So, but a lot of people kind of like take it to heart. They take it like freedom of expression, circumventing, you know, different, you know, basically like what this stuff was supposed to mean. You know, if you want to make artwork on the blockchain, there are ways to do it. Where if you get, you know, censored, you can get around there. Like sometimes I'll mint on Bitcoin. You know, most people like you can mint on, you know, Counterparty, and get around there. Like go find it. Like most people don't even know how to like mint on Bitcoin anymore. So that's kind of like my like little like, oh, I minted on Bitcoin, go get it.
It's
you
like
it's
we just launched a community marketplace for V1 punks, And one of those things was kind of like, you know, if it's going to get taken down from other places, let's give projects and artists the tools to kind of like create their own NFT marketplaces. So I'm going to manifest it, Robness. You know I want to do a trash art community marketplace.
Well, I did buy toter.io, so like, yeah, so that's,
okay.
we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, like I've been getting the push to like make my own marketplace and stuff. But for other projects, I have done that already, which is cool. But I think that's like the next thing for artists is like to like take control and like you can literally have your own website with a marketplace and just ride your own wave. So. Yeah.
Miss Al, we were going to talk a little bit about underlying technologies and how like that's kind of has removed some of the barriers to entry for artists.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, when I started, I was doing collage and, you know, trying to sell online and doing all the kind of Web 2 techniques. So I had potted around with the digital art, obviously not like Brendan here, but I had potted around Photoshop and taught myself the kind of basics. But as soon as I kind of met the blockchain, I then tried to, as hard as possible, make my collages digital and really working with the programs. We've got amazing program in Adobe. Photomosh is incredible. What happens when you kind of mash it all up together and shove it out the other end? What happens if you do that? So the experimentation for the artists is unbelievable. But as part of the movement, I mean, there's been lots of times, like I remember the Photomosh debacle where overnight they were like, you're using Photomosh, you know. And I guess the same kind of sometimes with Adobe and so on. But these are tools for artists to use to make incredible art. And we're all very different. And can you imagine what it's going to be like in the future as more and more programs come out for artists to express themselves? So I think, you know, as the blockchain's developed and as the marketplace has developed, so is my practice and so is the practice of all the artists around me. And I think exactly what Rob has just said, now I think we're going to see a wave of artists really realizing that we're the ones in control here. We're, for the first time, you know, it's the roles are reversed with the traditional art world. This time, the artist really is in control. You're in control of what you make, you're in control of what you mint, you're in control of what you sell it for, so on and so on and so on. And I think the artists are going to grab the reins and just go for it now. So very exciting times.
And that's one thing I notice about your work, Brendan. I always feel like you are pushing like whatever tool it is, whatever program it is, to the extreme. I feel like you're kind of like turning it inside out, and I'm seeing the tool exposed in a completely different way. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about which are your favorite programs you're working with. How do you mash them up? Do you actually kind of like cross-pollinate?
Yeah, well, I come from a background of I'm fascinated by combinations. I think we probably all are. Where, you know, I've never heard of Photomosh, by the way, so I'm going to look that up. It's amazing. So I'm bloody looking that up. Yeah. So I love learning new things. No, I'm interested in combinations of things. So before I got into art and design, I used to assemble breakbeat albums for an underground record label here in London, and I would, you know, get vinyl records and find breakbeats, and then the idea was, you know, combine them, you know, to make different new things with, like, you know, Duchamp's ready-mades, but they were music. So I've always been interested in the combinations of things, even though those things can be really simple and quite boring, really, on their own. But so I'm always, like I just said, I'm fascinated in learning new things. So I will learn, you know, how to use the command line, which is like really low level, or, you know, processing, which is Java or C++. Because people say to me, like, how do you learn so many programs? I said, well, it's all the same. It's just the syntax. You know, programming is basically, here's a quick 101. This will annoy programmers in the room. I don't care. So it's turning things on and off, making decisions and making loops. That's programming. You're welcome. So the thing is, you know, once you have that kind of idea in your head, you can pretty much use any, you know, then it's all about the craft, obviously. But yeah, I like combining things. And to me, why concentrate on one tool? That's where the power is for me. So I've used a lot of Houdini because I like the visual way you can construct things. Where I got bored of typing words into computers to make shit happen. It's like, it seemed really, antiquated. It's like, what? We're still typing to make a thing, a circle on a screen. It's seems backwards to me. But then I still also love that side of things. So, but yeah, it's about the combination of things. So I try and combine lots of different things to try and, get what's out in my head on the screen or 3D print or whatever it is. Yeah.
So to create that kind of like visual moment of what's exactly, where your thought process is. Anika, I was going to ask, are you happy to share a little bit more about how you're working with Marina Abramovich? I don't know so much about that project. It sounds incredible. To me, I kind of think of her as being a very minimal artist, and so instantly if I'm thinking Web3 or NFT, in my mind it's almost, I'm kind of thinking, is there sort of like correlations with an artist like Pac? Is it going to be kind of like super interesting in terms of like, are you going to be minting on like Ash or like something else? Love to hear about what's the plan, what's happening.
Yeah, what's the plan? That's very good. Also, what NFTs, back to the question, what have NFTs really changed? That also bigger artists, you have a background maybe in performance art, start looking at digital art and the blockchain and try to understand how can use the technology, right? So for Marina Abramovich, it's not so much about making NFTs, but more for, she has a performance art background, so she now wants to do a performance on the blockchain. And for her, it has always been about time. And so I guess most of you know her performance piece, The Hero, where she sits on a horse and holds the white flag. It's very iconic. I guess all of you have seen it. And Circa, a sort of like art institution based in London, they rent screen all over the world or have screens all over the world and present work from artists like once a day. So for the next 3 months, it's Marina Abramovich. And when they were speaking, they had the idea that, well, this is all about time and technology. So let's think about doing NFTs, and then they got in touch with me, and then we developed the whole thing together, and my job was basically also to find a solution for, the right blockchain for her. She was aware of Tezos, but for her it was super important that it's a green chain, and also she's really interested in Web3, and most artists at some point had a hard time in their life. And when you're established, you remember how hard it was for you. And when she started as a performance artist, she wasn't taken serious, right? So when she looks at Web3 now, she sees herself in the young artists and it's like, well, they're making fun of them. They say, this is not art, is it art? And then, in that way, she also wanted to be on a blockchain that has a strong artist community, and that's clearly Tezos. The drop takes place on, July 25th. And there's a max of 6,500 NFTs available from unreleased material from The Hero. And so people can decide if they either want to mint a single frame or more frames, and these will then be minted as a gift. And the starting price is 150 British pound, I think, right now. That might be, you might know that better than myself, 120 Tezos. I think, yes. So, yeah, that's the project. Yep.
That's incredibly exciting, and I do think obviously the work that Tezos are doing, working with like fine artists, they have done so much around like that conversation. I was really, really blown away by what they did at Art Basel in Miami in November, December last year. That was like a game changer again, and I feel like this conference is very much in line with those conversations and how we all move the space forward. And I love the fact that people think that NFTs are dead. That's great. It means we can get on with stuff.
I love it. It's a cleansing. Anybody that's doing crypto art right now and is going to go for the long haul, you're doing it right.
100%.
Yeah.
DAOs, communities, micro communities, kind of like geography, like metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, I think the DAO thing is pretty interesting because it's a good way to crowdfund instantaneously if you do it right. But considering the beginnings of crypto art, you're able to a lot of us just leapfrogged. There's certain points in the globe. I was in LA and Miss Al and Norman in Scotland and everywhere else and Oceanachi, Nigeria. It's weird, these little spots. But the way I kind of look at it is all these micro communities across the globe will have their own styles of artwork, and I'm more interested in that because it's kind of weird. The music industry is kind of interesting. It's very I don't know, U.S. centric. I don't know if it's language based or what is it. It's kind of weird, U.S. or U.K. But with art, it's different. It's for some reason I think it's a language barrier or something. But with visual art, you can just jump. And so I'm more concerned with seeing these micro communities grow, and if you can run a DAO in Tibet, you know, and you got a whole artist community up there. I mean, you can channel all that energy right there. You know, I don't even look at this currency like as currency anymore. Like the way that it moves so quickly. It's like it is energy. And I think Marina mentioned that how currency is starting to turn into that type of energy, and it's very transmissive. It's very quick. And I just like seeing it manifest. You know, I'm seeing it. Like there's all these DAOs that are popping up, and they, you know, a lot of them have weird, you know, a lot of them have kind of like weird like objectives. But I think when artists really take control of that, it's going to be really beautiful to see. So.
There are some incredible kind of like Tezos collecting. I actually don't know if they Carpe Diem. I don't know if they refer to themselves actually as a DAO. Anyone from Carpe Diem here? Are you guys a DAO? You're an amazing collecting group. But I love the fact
collective,
that...
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
collective.
like,
but I love that, like, you know, actually there's some very committed, like, groups of collectors that are really moving that Tezos conversation forward. And in terms of, like, collectors and different audiences that we're seeing, like, globally develop, have you noticed on your travels, any of you, like, how... Are there kind of, like, different areas or regions where, like... creating work on Tezos is, like, for me it almost feels like over in Europe it has a different kind of like precedence because we have like a different connection to maybe creating art in a different way. I don't know. I've kind of like, you know, I've traveled a lot to a lot of different NFT conferences, and it is very different conversations, different types of collectors in different regions. So yeah, interested to see if you guys have kind of like noticed that your collector base is different, and does that then inform the work that you create, or are you just really purely kind of like creating work?
The form of the collector or even the blockchain has absolutely no effect on the work that I create. I just make art, you know, because I think, like we touched on, a lot of artists have got things that they've gone through in their lives, and art for me is just a release. It's an escape. It's expression, and you know, sometimes I make digital pop art, and I feel like doing like a Bitcoin bitch today and work on that, and then other times I feel like doing something much more ethereal. You know, I like the freedom of being an artist and expressing myself and really not caring what anybody else thinks. Now, whether or not that strategy is going to work long term, I don't know, but I don't care. You know, we've had this for years of, you know, at times collectors saying don't do this and don't do that. And some of these collectors are still here, but some of them have gone, haven't they? And, you know, they come and go. But, you know, as an artist, you've got to kind of develop your own style and, you know, be confident in working with the technology, working with the blockchain, and minting and building your collector base. And that would be my advice.
Have you found more freedom in the work that you create, Anika, for instance, through Web3 and NFTs? I'm just thinking, like, in terms of, like, artists would often be developing or creating bodies of works for a show, for a fair. There was kind of, like, you know, very specific ways in which artists were being asked to kind of very politely or not so politely create work in a very, I think that was in a more monetized way. Have you kind of like found a freedom in like creating work in a more ad hoc way?
I mean, as a curator, the interesting part is that prior to the NFT hypes, I mean, most digital artists didn't sell any work, right? Or not that much work. An operator, for example, Artist Collective, they didn't want to sell work on purpose because they didn't want to, you know, be part of the market. And that totally has changed through NFTs, but that also has changed like curating, because prior it was like digital artists, they created also digital work for the space, right? For an exhibition space, for a museum space, installations. And then suddenly through the NFTs, and also during the pandemic, right? Then, I mean, there were artists who always had been making online exhibitions, so they brought them back, or artists were making more online exhibitions. And then suddenly that's also how we started Web.game. It's like an interoperable metaverse by a British artist called Thomas Webb. And yeah, it's like a big virtual world, 2D. And we started that in 2020 during the pandemic. Because we wanted to bring people together in a space. And then, you know, there was the hype of NFTs, and then suddenly, you know, everyone was looking at marketplaces. and then artists just put work on there. And now when we see exhibitions, and that's great what's about proof of people, right? That artists find now different ways, because now we're back to spaces. I mean, all of you haven't had these spaces during the pandemic, right? So you could only create work for screens, like for Marketplace and so on. And now that we're back to the spaces, artists find new ways to know, oh, you have this space in this room, in this location, and then artists can think about how they can work with that and not only put work on screens. And so as a curator, also working with artists in museums, I declined curating a show in a museum earlier this year. I would have had a slot because I said, no, I don't want to curate a show about NFTs where it's just screens in a museum. I find that super weird. And I said, let's speak again next year. I'm pretty sure artists are there because they now start experimenting and the show will be totally different. So yeah, that slot wasn't taking. But I would have found it really weird to, invite people to go to a museum and then there's all screens. So yeah, I guess next year will be even more exciting than this year. So I think that's also what NFTs changed, that artists start working with spaces. I mean, do you feel the same way about that as an artist, as a curator?
Go for it.
Sure. I always love the thing, when you design a door handle, consider the door, which basically is about, thinking about context of where you're going to display your art. And I think that's the interesting thing if you're going to have it shown at physical galleries. The show I just had at Gazelli, we did like a 3-screen installation. The whole room we could make black. We didn't just put screens on the wall. It was hanging in the space. It was like, this kind of sculpture and people could walk around it as well. That was the other thing. So it wasn't just a case of, well, let's just bang some screens on a wall because, well, I can do that at home, So what can physical spaces bring to it in an interesting way? And also, you can 3D print sculptures or whatever it is, right? And then people can interact with it. So that's what's great about, this. We're seeing there's a lot of interactive pieces here where people are pressing buttons to mint and, with like Mario's thing, and what Operator's done is amazing. And so that's the promise of the physical space, I think, combined with the digital. Because it was weird, right? In the old way, whenever I was in galleries, I'd make digital work and then I'd have to transmute it into a physical analog form by printing it out, and yet it was a digital thing, and that was always strange to me.
Yeah, you just got to choose whether you wanted to put it on aluminium or
yes,
paper.
exactly, or Diabond or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's like we're embracing digital art. Look at this, it's amazing. So, that's what I think NFTs has changed from.
I think you're so right. I mean, this is the future of these immersive exhibitions, and I was super lucky to work with Vertical Crypto Art for LA Freeze, and we created an amazing installation there as well, which was awesome. Had no idea that was the first NFT exhibition as part of Freeze in LA, which was very cool until we were on the plane on the way home. But yeah, I want to wrap up. Do we have time for questions? Does anyone know? If no one tells me, we will. We do? Cool. I'm just going to wait for a mic, if that's okay. I think we have one. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Thank you so much. So first of all, absolutely interesting getting to the topic of NFTs that are an artist experiencing how to bring the experience beyond the screen and also into the space. One very interesting thing about this new relationship between collectors, artworks, and artists is the presence of the wallet. This sort of like digital twin, which also introduces the element of relationship, and also PAC plays a lot with this relationship. Beyond only the exhibition in the space, it almost feels like we're getting to a point maybe where the artist gets to develop an entire experience, also based not only on the space, but also the entire journey that NFT can bring the owner, not only through this space, this gallery, but maybe its entire life, if it's a diamond hand holder. I just wanted to know if this is something that all the artists here share. What are their thoughts, especially Anika? I would love to hear if you have any answer to this.
Who wants to start?
I can.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, I mean the token itself. It's funny because if you Miss Al and I, we've made work for the last couple of years. So sometimes we'll look at work and see where it's traveled. So sometimes like I've had my art switch hands about like 5 times or something. And maybe because I sold it cheap back in the day, so it just flipped around. But still, like you get to see the mint date, and then where it goes, and it probably just flies all over the earth and stuff. But you can play around with that. So basically, like if you just see the token and see like where do you want to send this thing? Because the abstraction is like right on top. Whatever that is on top of the token, and like the token is just the proof of record. That's all it is. Everybody that's making crypto art is just stamping. It's just a better proof of record. But like where that token can go, you can play with that abstraction, like whatever that is, and just like whatever you think, on top. It's like this train, and it's like whatever you put on top of it, you can play with it. So for me, it's just like, yeah, the token has a journey, but like what do you want to do with that on top of it? So it's up to you.
Anika, is that something that you're going to be working on at all in terms of like that? I think what you're talking about is like how the collector is part of the actual piece in a way, because they're actually physically minting work, holding the work in a different way, owning the work, whether you think of yourself as a custodian or not. Is that something like that whole process? Is that something that you guys are exploring?
In which project?
With your project with Marina.
The interesting part is that the collector can actually decide how the work will be minted, right? There's this, I think it's an 11-long video of unreleased material. It's just been filmed, and the collectors can actually decide how the work is minted, right? 6,500 people could mint single frames, or 2,500 people mint single frames, and then 100 mint 25 frames for a GIF. So I find that quite interesting that the collectors can decide how much time they want off that piece. I find that quite interesting, because that's sort of like the audience becomes part of that performance, right? It's not just the artist deciding how the work's going to look. Or to bring another example, Harm van den Dorpel, he made a piece on the blockchain, or Matt Kane with the Gazers, right? People who really work with code, and the pieces change. So as a collector, when you own the piece, the next day you might wake up and have look at a different piece, right? So I own a Mutant Garden Seeder, and I check it every day if something has happened with it. So I find that really interesting. If you also have, and that's also what the technology itself has changed, right? That you not only buy, paintings are great, right? But when you have a painting, you have a painting on the wall, and you know how it looks, and it will look like that forever. But if you buy something on the blockchain and it works with the technology, it might be different like every single day. Yeah, that NFTs has changed as well, I guess.
I guess touching on that, we're really seeing the medium as a message, aren't we, with the blockchain? From things like that, Matt Kane's Gazer is amazing, to actually tokenizing a piece of crypto art on the day that something's happened. I did one with a tweet. I think it was an Elon Musk tweet, and it was minted on the day. So just down to even that, where you're actually involving the timestamping. But I think we're entering a stage where we're going to see the medium as a message with the blockchain and the use of time with that just expand beyond anything that we can imagine at the moment. So I think it's very, very exciting.
Do we have any more questions? I see you guys upstairs as well. Oh, we have another one at the front. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Papa. Thank you so much for hosting this today. I really love the war story aspect of this, so I'd love you to expand on Photomosh, for instance. I'm not quite sure what that was, but and the Toto story. And it's interesting, particularly this idea that externally there's this perception that NFTs are dead, and internally there's still this sort of vigor, and we're all here. And so, the experience of perhaps working through a period when even internally people thought that it was dead and still had to persevere, or didn't have to, but just sort of chose to out of some hope or aspiration for what it could become. And a second one, if I can, is just ask around what the future of these galleries might look like. So at the moment, we're talking about hanging screens from, in these rooms, and how the space is sort of differentiated. And I'd love just to imagine what that looks like going forward. Is it holograms or whatever? Sorry, squeeze two in there.
Especially when it comes to galleries, I think, there's marketplaces and there's galleries, and I think everyone was really happy at some point to get rid of the middleman, but I think And that's what when I think about the future of marketplaces, galleries, and the NFT space, I think, that it's important that some sort of like middleman comes back, right? Because right now we see a lot of the same artists selling work and being present everywhere, and that's what galleries are there for, right? They have a sales team and they have a bigger roster of artists and they take care of more people. And galleries are also important to get artists into museum collections, or museums work with curators like myself, and then they are like, oh, we want you to curate a show, and then I'm free to suggest something. So everyone was so keen of getting rid of the middleman, but I think, I don't know if you agree, but I think, and not middleman as some sort of gatekeeper, right? But some sort of like person like really helping people. I love FX Hash, like really it's a generative art platform on Tezos, but you can tell with some cases, and that's what curators are there for, and galleries, to work with artists on their work, to give feedback, you know, to like really also in some cases help out with knowledge about the history of digital art. And on a platform like FX Hash, like where everyone can just mint work, you can tell that there's a person missing, or even a gallery or someone like who gives feedback. And I think that would be very important for the future, you know, that it's like more we're thinking like, oh, we're all in this together, and not let's get rid of one entity who might be important for other cases which are now missing.
It's like this exhibition, you know, Mikol's done this incredible job at Vertical Crypto Art of pulling artists together that I think, you know, there's definitely this sense of this is a moment in time. These are the artists that we really want to explore and celebrate. And I think for me, that's why I see this as being such a monumental, like, exhibition, if you could call it an exhibition.
I think on the gallery thing, you know, I think there's been a narrative that galleries are like, you know, gatekeepers and evil and all this kind of stuff. And actually, the best galleries are actually people who, like you say, help the artists. They catalogue the work. They have the conversations with the institutions and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, the gallery I'm with, you know, do exactly that. They're not, you know, I can still do other work, but they're helping me have these conversations, present the work correctly. They look after you. They, you know, and they bring all this, you know, this history with them of how things work. I think sometimes it can be set up as like this adversarial thing. Maybe I'm too nice, I don't know, but I like people, let's all just work together and like figure this thing out. It's all new, you know? I don't know.
I've got two minds, I must admit. I mean, I think exactly what you've just said, Brendan. I think there's a lot that obviously, I mean, an amazing exhibition like this and how that's going to become totally immersive in the future. Are we going to walk into the artwork and feel it all around us, whatever it's going to go? But I also am very, very keen on keeping the concept of decentralization, using blockchain technology, taking down the barriers, taking out the middlemen. And if you are an artist and you want to mint on the blockchain, you can do that. And it's down to you how you sell your work, how hard you work at it. I think that's a revolution that I think sometimes we've been in it for so long that we forget how incredible that is. And that is life-changing for so many artists all over the world, no matter if you're in Edinburgh or LA or Tibet. We have to not lose sight of that. So I think the two can work together.
I think that's literally the perfect closing statement. Thank you so much. I want to thank the audience. I want to thank you all. This has been fantastic. Excited for more conversations over the next 3 days. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, guys. Awesome.
Thank you very much, Holly. And sorry for rushing you up on stage there. I had a bit of a brain glitch, but please stick with me. We've got another panel now in a couple of minutes. We're just going to have a changeover.